Charles Marino, 20, and his brother-in-law, Kenneth Fleming, 15, met Mitchell in a Houston neighborhood park, and Mitchell had offered to sell the pair some marijuana. Instead, Mitchell pulled out a sawed-off shotgun and forced them to drive to a vacant house. He robbed them of cash and car keys, then shot them both. Fleming survived with an injury to his hip. An eyewitness identified Mitchell leaving the vacant house. Mitchell was later arrested in possession of Marino's car and told police, "I shot the two white boys." Mitchell gave a written confession admitting the shootings, but claimed they were accidental. The same day he killed Marino, Mitchell shot and killed another man, Hector Manglia, 18, when he refused to give Mitchell a necklace he demanded. Mitchell was 17 at the time of the murder. Facts of the crime. On June 4, 1985, Gerald Lee Mitchell abducted and shot Charles Angelo Marino and his 15-year-old brother-in-law, Kenneth Fleming, killing Marino. Marino and Fleming drove to Lincoln City Park in Houston to purchase marijuana. Mitchell and another man approached Marino's car, a Trans Am, and offered to sell them marijuana. Mitchell and the other man got into Marino's car and directed him to drive to a house. Mitchell left the car to get a shotgun, which he hid in his warm-up pants. When Mitchell returned, the men drove to a dead-end street where Mitchell pulled out the shotgun, demanded the car keys, and tried to force Marino and Fleming into the trunk. When they refused, Mitchell made them walk to a vacant house. After getting the car keys from Marino, Mitchell directed the men into the vacant house, taking Marino's wallet as they walked. Mitchell pumped the shotgun, stating, "You don't believe I'll shoot you, man?" He then kicked in the door and all went inside. Once inside the vacant building, the second man, who had not been an active participant in the abduction, told Mitchell to take Marino's and Fleming's clothing and leave them there. Mitchell whispered to him to get some rope, at which point the second man left and did not return. Mitchell forced Marino and Fleming to sit on the floor and said, "Raise your hands, white boy, you don't want to die with your hands down." Mitchell then shot Marino in the chest. Fleming rolled into a ball and Mitchell then shot him. Fleming heard the gun pump before being shot, and Mitchell stating, "You in the white shirt, I don't think you're dead, white boy," referring to Marino. Marino died from a shotgun wound to the chest. Fleming, who was wounded in the chest, hip and arm, survived by feigning death. Donald Newsom was walking in the vicinity of the vacant house, heard shots, and saw Mitchell come out of the back of the house with a shotgun over his shoulder. When Mitchell saw Newsom, he was laughing and said, "You don't have to be scared of me, I'm just shooting at some birds." Mitchell then put the gun in the backseat of a tan or goldish Trans Am and drove off. Mitchell was later arrested in Corpus Christi in possession of Marino's car. Mitchell was transported back to Houston, where he told Sergeant Parrish of the Houston Police Department something like, "I want to get it off my chest, I shot the two white boys." Mitchell gave a written confession admitting the shootings, but claiming they were accidental. Procedural history. Mitchell is confined pursuant to a judgment and sentence of the 338th Judicial District Court of Harris County, Texas, cause number 426,583, styled the State of Texas vs. Gerald Lee Mitchell. Mitchell was indicted on June 8, 1985, for the capital offense of the intentional murder of Charles Angelo Marino while in the course of committing and attempting to commit robbery of Marino on or about June 4, 1985. The case against Mitchell was heard by a jury, which found him guilty of capital murder on April 7, 1986. Following a separate punishment hearing, the jury affirmatively answered the two special issues submitted pursuant to former texts. Code Crim. Proc. Ann. Art. 37.071 Paragraph 2 West 1985. In accordance with Texas law, the trial court on April 11, 1986, sentenced Mitchell to death. Mitchell's conviction and sentence were automatically appealed to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. The Court of Criminal Appeals affirmed Mitchell's conviction and sentence on January 27, 1993. Mitchell v. State, number 69631, Tex. Crim. App. January 27, 1993, unpublished. Mitchell next filed a petition for a writ of certiorari, which was denied by the United States Supreme Court on October 4, 1993. Mitchell filed an application for writ of habeas corpus under Article 11.071 of the Texas Code of Criminal Procedure in state court on September 19, 1994. Mitchell then filed an amended application on January 19, 1995, and a second amended application on March 4, 1997. The court entered findings of fact and conclusions of law recommending that relief be denied on February 18, 1998. Ex parte Mitchell, number 426583A, 338 Judicial District Court of Harris County, Texas, February 18, 1998. The Court of Criminal Appeals denied relief based on its own review of the record and the trial court's findings and conclusions on September 16, 1998. Ex parte Mitchell, number 37044-01, Tex. Crim. App. September 16, 1998. Mitchell filed a subsequent application in the trial court for writ of habeas corpus under Article 11.071 on September 23, 1998. The Court of Criminal Appeals ruled that the application failed to satisfy the pleading requirement imposed by Article 11.071, Paragraph 5, and dismissed the application as an abuse of the writ on December 16, 1998. Ex parte Mitchell, number 37044-02, Tex. Crim. App. December 16, 1998. On September 14, 1999, Mitchell filed a petition for writ of habeas corpus pursuant to 28 U.S.C. paragraph 2254 in the District Court for the Southern District of Texas, Houston Division. That petition, and a certificate of appealability, were denied on September 7, 2000. Mitchell sought a certificate of appealability from the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit, which was denied on March 12, 2001. Mitchell then sought a certificate of appealability for the United States Supreme Court, which was denied on April 16, 2001. On September 12, 2001, Mitchell filed another subsequent application for writ of habeas corpus in state court. That application was denied by the Court of Criminal Appeals on October 10, 2001. Prior criminal history. During the punishment phase of Mitchell's trial, the state introduced evidence that Mitchell had committed another murder only a few hours before he killed Marino. Mitchell admitted to police that he approached Hector Munja and demanded the necklace that he was wearing. Mitchell killed Munja with a shotgun blast when he refused to comply. Mitchell then went to a friend's house and went to sleep. The state also introduced evidence that Mitchell committed a burglary a few days after killing Moreno and Munja. Other punishment phase evidence included an armed robbery of a savings and loan in January 1985, testimony that, while in Harris County Jail before trial, Mitchell was often violent with other inmates and threatened them with assault or rape, an attempted robbery of a Baskin-Robbins in 1983, theft of a purse in 1983, testimony that Mitchell carried a .357 pistol to school and told a classmate that he was going to shoot someone, and testimony that Mitchell had a reputation at school for not being peaceful and law-abiding, that he threatened instructors and other students, and got in fights, and that he had been placed in various alternative school settings until eventually being expelled. Gerald Mitchell, 33, was executed by lethal injection on the 22nd of October in Huntsville, Texas for the robbery and murder of a man who tried to buy marijuana from him. In June 1985, Charles Marino, 20, and his brother-in-law, Kenneth Fleming, 15, went to a Houston park to buy marijuana. They met Mitchell, then 17, who offered to sell to them. Mitchell and an unidentified accomplice got in Marino's car. Mitchell then pulled a sawed-off 12-gauge shotgun on the men and forced them to drive to a vacant house. After Mitchell took $25 and Marino's car keys, the accomplice told Mitchell to leave them there. When Mitchell asked the accomplice to get some rope, the accomplice left and did not return. Mitchell then forced Marino and Fleming to sit on the floor. He shot Marino in the chest from a distance of 10 feet. Fleming rolled into a ball and then Mitchell shot him. Marino was killed, but Fleming survived. Donald Newsom was walking in the vicinity of the vacant house, heard shots, and saw Mitchell coming out of the back of the house with a shotgun over his shoulders. Mitchell told him he was just shooting some birds, and drove off in Marino's 1980 Pontiac Trans Am. The same day he killed Marino, Mitchell shot and killed another man, Hector Manguia, 18, when he refused to give Mitchell a necklace he demanded. Mitchell was arrested in Corpus Christi 7 days later, driving Marino's car. He gave police a written confession where he admitted shooting Marino and Fleming, but he claimed it was an accident. In April 1986, a jury convicted Mitchell of the capital murder of Charles Marino and sentenced him to death. All of his appeals in state and federal courts were denied. Mitchell was also convicted of attempted capital murder in the Fleming shooting and given a 60-year sentence. He was also given a 60-year sentence for the murder of Hector Manguia. As a juvenile, Mitchell had been arrested for robbery, burglary and taking a pistol to school, and he had served time in a youth detention center. He also supposedly fathered 7 children with 6 women. Since the murders, Mitchell's father has been shot to death, his brother has gone to federal prison for bank robbery, and his mother has been put on probation for drug charges. On death row, Mitchell expressed remorse about the murders and the direction he took in life. "I was young, I didn't care about living," he said. "I was full of hate, full of rage. I really can't explain why. I was attracted to the wild side, the street life where you're trying to make a name for yourself." However, he believed that at the age of 33, he was no longer the same person who murdered 2 men. In a letter to the Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles, Mitchell wrote, "I have come so very long a way since the year of that mentally disturbed and unsettled 17-year young person. I have truly matured." At his execution, Mitchell asked Charles Marino's family for forgiveness, saying, "I am sorry for the life I took from you. I ask God for forgiveness and I ask you for the same. I know it may be hard, but I'm sorry for what I did." He also thanked his family for their support and confessed his faith in Jesus. His last words were, "It's all right. I'm going to a better place." He was pronounced dead at 6:25 p.m.